So we have tested our roots, we've tested one handler. Let's write one more set of tests, and we'll do it for the helpers.go file right here in the back end. So there's three functions in here: readJSON, writeJSON, and errorJSON. Let's write some tests for those. So I'll create a file in the API folder called helpers_test.go, and it's in package main. And we'll write a function, first of all, to test reading JSON. So func test_readJSON. Try that again. JSON. And it takes the parameter t, which is a pointer to testing.t. Again, it's not importing testing for me. It gets irritating. Testing.t. Okay. Now, how are we going to do this? Well, let's go look at that function. readJSON expects to get to read the body of a request and convert it to JSON. Okay, so we're going to get a body, we're going to convert it to JSON, decode it, and return an error if we have more than one value in there. Well, that's pretty straightforward. So all we have to do is to create a sample JSON file. And it doesn't matter what it is as long as it's sample JSON. So create sample JSON. So I'll create sample JSON, and that will be equal to a map of string with some interface. It can hold anything. And I'll put in there one value, foo and bar. And this should actually be an interface like that. That's better. So now I have my sample JSON file. And now I'll create a body variable and ignore the return value, second return value, when I call json.marshal. So I'll marshal sample JSON into the correct format for a body. And now I need to declare a variable that we can read into. And that's simple enough. Var decoded JSON is a struct, and it has foo string, and in JSON, that's going to be called foo, just like I did in my sample JSON file. Okay? Now, create a request. And we do that the same way we did last time, almost. Request and error are assigned the value of http.newRequest, and it will be a post request, and it will go to some URL. It doesn't matter what it is as long as there's a value there. And now we need to put the body in. Well, we need to use bytes.newReader to get it the right format, and we put body in there. And we'll check for an error. If error is not equal to nil, then we're going to say t.log error. Okay? So we have our request. Now, create a test response recorder, because we need one. So the same way we did before, RR is our response recorder, and that's an HTTP test.newRecorder. And we defer, in this case, request.body.close. We want to close that body. And now we call readJSON. So error is equal to test app, which we set up in our setup.test, and we want readJSON. And that requires a response recorder, which is our test response recorder, a request with a body in it, and we're going to put the value back into decoded JSON. If error is not equal to nil, then t.error, and we failed. Failed to decode JSON with whatever the error is. And that's all we should have to do for that one, so let's give it a try. Open a terminal, clear the screen, go test-v dot. And everything passed. Well, that was an easy one. Okay. That's reading JSON. What about writing JSON? Well, let's get the function started. Test_writeJSON. So for this one, we're actually going to attempt writing some JSON back to the user. So we're going to need a response recorder. No question about that. So RR is HTTP test.newRecorder. And we're also going to have some payload to send back, and we do that just like we've been doing all along. Payload is assigned the value of the type JSON response, and we populate its field. So error is false, and message is, it doesn't matter, foo. Let me scroll up and give ourselves some room. Now we have to make some headers. We might as well. Headers, because we can actually add headers. If you look over at helpers.go, one of the things we can do in writeJSON is we can actually add headers. We check for them here, and we receive them up here as a variadic parameter. So we may as well add them. So we'll create some headers. And we do that in Go by saying headers is assigned the value of, and we have to use the make http.header. So now I have some headers. Let's add a header to it. Headers.add, and I'll add foo and bar. Doesn't matter what it is as long as I have two strings there. And we'll say error is assigned the value of testapp.writeJSON, and we give it RR some status, http.status OK, with the payload and with the headers. And we check for an error. If error is not equal to nil, then t.errorf, and we give it a format string, failed to write JSON, I'll put a %v there, and substitute the error for that. So that's one test. We might as well test it in production as well, just to make sure. And to do that, I just say testapp.environment is equal to production. And the reason I'm doing that is over in helpers.go. If you recall, we actually test up here to see if the application environment is development or something else. And we've already done development, but we haven't tested this one, so we may as well test it. And I do exactly the same thing. Copy all of this, paste it here, and change the assignment operator to an equals operator. And to make it a little clearer, fail to write JSON in production environment. Production on is sufficient. And we do that. And when I'm finished, I'll just set testapp.environment back to development. Okay, let's run that test. Open the terminal, clear the screen, go test-b dot, and everything passed. Okay, so the last one we need to write for our helpers.go file is, of course, over here in helpers.go, error JSON. But this lecture is getting a little bit long, so we'll write that test in the next lecture.